Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast, and welcome to our watch club for Marvel's The Falcon and Winter Soldier. We need new heroes, ones suited for the times we're in. On your left, and welcome to Watch Club. My name is Nate, and this is our Watch Club for The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. In this first episode, titled New World Order, we catch up with Sam and Bucky as they try to reconcile their past and make up for lost time, along with a new superpowered individual and even a new Captain America. But first, if you're joining us for the first time, this is Watch Club, our weekly review series, kind of like a book club, but way better. Keep in mind, we will be going into full spoilers for this series and the MCU in general, so if you haven't watched this week's episode yet, be sure to do so, and then come right back in a snap. Now, before we jump out of a helicopter and fly through a falling canyon, let me introduce you to the dynamic duo joining me on the show this evening. As always, he's smart, level-headed, and cares deeply for his family. When he's not spreading his wings and rejecting his future, we've got Justin.
Oh, I thought that was for Kevin.
I mean, I think either one of these would really work for either of you, but now that he's spent more time calming down, even though he'll never forget the actions of his past, we have the sometimes rage-fueled robot with a big right arm, Kevin Hudson.
Ah, you made me the Bucky.
I thought you'd enjoy it. I thought that felt more like, because you got the hair. Look at your hair right now. It's very Bucky. True. How are you guys doing this fine evening?
Excited to talk about some Falcon Winter Soldier. Let's do this.
Right, it seems like we just finished our WandaVision Watch Club, and then we immediately just get more Marvel goodness.
Well, we did just finish our WandaVision Watch Club.
Yeah, and I've been
right.
itching all week for some sort of Marvel MCU level. It's just, it's like adrenaline. It's like it's in me now. I just need it. So
yeah. So, Disney, listen, if you're listening, you better keep this up for the rest of forever. But before we get into the plot and skydive into our thoughts on this premiere episode, let's start with a brief overview of your high-level thoughts on the episode. Justin, let's start with yourself.
Well, I have to say, if you've listened to our WandaVision Watch Club, where we discussed how weird and how different that whole series was, this was a nice return to the MCU norm and just dealing with post-snap, post-blip life for these heroes, and not just for the heroes, for the rest of the world. So, I really enjoyed how we're now stepping into this part of the MCU to kind of understand the world now, and some really interesting stuff. I think they've planted some cool seeds about what this world looks like, which I'll get into as we go deeper. But I think it was great. It had the right vibes that really matched the Falcon and Bucky hero persona, if you will. So
for sure,
very traditional to what we might have already seen in other movies. But you know what? It already, just in the first episode, you see how different this is from WandaVision, just right off the bat.
Yes.
So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's different, and it's also very much familiar, right? At the same time.
Exactly.
Kevin, what was your initial impressions of the episode?
Yeah, kind of like Justin touched on, just to go from that zany, really bizarre world of WandaVision to go here, and it's so much more grounded. You got Sam ironing a shirt. You've got Bucky in therapy. Like, this is like real world stuff. Yeah. And I loved it. I gotta say, I loved it. I loved the slower sort of, more in depth, sort of approach that they're taking with this. And no, this is no slight against Far From Home, but I'm loving what they're doing, showing the importance and the significance of the blip. And I get that Spider-Man was supposed to sort of be this like sort of fun bounce back after the heaviness of everything that happened in Endgame, but they really just went, yeah, the blip happened, everyone's back, and we're just moving on. And it's like, no, that was significant. That was 23 movies building up to that event. And so I'm glad they're now putting the focus into those things. And I think the TV format is the perfect way to do it. So I really enjoyed where this is going.
Absolutely. To your point, right? Like the incredible action moments in this episode on par for the MCU, but how they're juxtaposed by the incredible slow-paced character moments. Like you said, seeing Bucky in therapy, or Sam trying to reconnect with his family, or when they go to the bank, like just stuff like that, like answering these very grounded, very human questions that we get with these kinds of characters. And I think Justin, to your point, it established the feel for the way I think that the series is going to go. So I can't wait to see what's next. And again, the episode felt way shorter than 42 minutes. Like we said for almost every WandaVision episode, it was just like, it felt like it was 20 minutes long. I don't know. Even though there were slower moments, it still felt so quick.
And like, this is crazy. First, Marvel makes me give a damn about Wanda and Vision. Now they're going to make me like Bucky. Like, they're doing the impossible here.
Yeah. Well, guys, speaking of doing the impossible, let's do just like how Bucky's therapist, digs deep into his mind. Let's dig deep into this plot, shall we? We open to see Sam preparing his suit for what feels like a funeral, as we hear the dialogue from Avengers Endgame of an old Steve Rogers asking Sam, "How does it feel?" To which he responds with, "Like it's someone else's." And Steve responds with, "It isn't." We cut to Sam on a mission to take down LAF, a criminal organization that has kidnapped U.S. Captain Vassant. With Vassant in tow, LAF attempts to enter into Libyan airspace, which would prevent the U.S. Air Force from going after them as to risk an international conflict. With Lieutenant Torres on the ground as Sam's eyes and ears, we see Sam soar through the sky and land on an abducted U.S. airship. And sacre bleu, we see that this group is being commanded by returning MCU mini-boss, Georges Batroc. After some light flying and a few blown-up helicopters, Sam is successful in recovering Vassant, but Batroc seemingly gets away. So, guys, I want to know, what were your thoughts of this opener? But also, this brings me to my first kind of two questions. Number one, what did you think of the return of Batroc into the MCU? Does this mean we're going to see more of the LAF in this series? And two, what did you think of Lieutenant Torres? And are you aware of the significance of his entry into this series? Justin, let's start with yourself.
Well, the opening scene felt like the opening scene of Captain America, the Winter Soldier, where he's infiltrating the boat, same villain that he's actually finding on the boat. So, basically it's very interesting that it's the same person that he's tracking in this one, Sam is tracking. But it does have that action set tone first piece of the episode that really does establish the level of action. Also, Sam or the Falcon's role in this sort of government initiative to, I guess, clean up the world post blip. You know what I mean? He still has work essentially as a hero. That's what this pretty much affirms. So I thought it was interesting to have that. To your point about the character Torres. Yes, I believe we've discussed this already, but in the comics he is the predecessor to the Falcon. While the Falcon is Captain America, but different though, because I think in the comics, his wings aren't robotic or mechanical. They're actually it's more of like a mutation. So
yeah, he's a mutant.
Yeah. So
yes.
I don't know if I don't know. I like the idea of potentially giving him, if he does inevitably become the new Falcon. That's cool because he could definitely lean into the Avengers champion group and the Teen Avengers. But I don't know. I think it's early to speculate and say what's going to happen with his character, right? Like, it's just interesting that they've introduced, again, another person from the comics, though.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he'll be pretty significant. Kevin?
I hope so, because I loved him. I thought he was so fun, and I always love the character that's almost like playing the fan, like us as the audience watching these superheroes do cool stuff. And he's just like, this is awesome, And so he brought so much fun to it. And so I don't know if they'll go the sort of mutant route with it, but I would love to see them sort of shift it. If Sam becomes Cap and he becomes Falcon, I would love to see them pair up at some point again. And then with GSP coming back, they have hundreds of characters that we've been introduced to over the years. And anytime one pops up, it just brings that connectivity to all the movies and stuff that much. Anytime they do it, it's a lot of fun. And we get another cameo in a couple scenes. And so it's like, how many people are actually going to pop in and out of this show that, it's exciting to speculate who we might see in the future.
Yeah, it feels like, at least for certain characters, I can't say all of them, but for certain characters, it does feel like there's and again, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of Mephisto's going to be in the show and Doctor Strange is going to be in the show and all that stuff like we did for WandaVision. But I do think that there is more of a chance, Kevin, to your point, that we might see little moments here and there from certain heroes that are in and around that area. But yeah, like I love Torres. I thought he was very charming and endearing, and when he sees the wings extend, he's like, wow, and then his jump at the end, it was you could have freeze framed his jump at the very end and rolled the credits, and I would have been like, all right, we did it.
Some cheesy really track going over it. Yeah.
Really fantastic. And I think with the return of Batroc, I think that this means that he is going to be a part of it. I don't know if LAF necessarily is going to come back, but I do think he definitely will, because otherwise they wouldn't have showed him, getting away, right?
Yeah, I think that again, to Kevin's point, bringing these characters back in to the fray at any point just to connect that thread, they're not eliminating him, because even in Winter Soldier they ended up capturing him and interrogating him. That's how they found out that Nick Fury was involved in the whole conspiracy, right? So
right.
Anyways, yeah, I think it's interesting though that again, they use the same character, they've brought him back. It looks like though that organizations like terror groups are going to be a thing in this yes. series, opposing sort of things, right? Because I think it's the scene that's going to follow that will kind of outline, I guess, who our potential bad guys might be.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think because we're dealing with superheroes that aren't necessarily superheroes as much as your Wandas and your Visions and your sort of superpowered people. It's actual soldiers and actual people. You have to ground the villains a little bit more to make the fight seem a bit more realistic or plausible. And this action scene just showcased that. I love how
so good.
Obviously he's an excellent pilot. Not anybody could just jump in that suit and be able to fly the way he does, but he is assisted by all of this incredible technology and the little, the bird that comes off of his backpack there and is flying and helping him out. I just thought that was that was awesome. That was a lot of fun.
I love how when he's getting shot with the bullets, how it almost feels like it's an automatic suit response to when he puts up his wings and uses them as a shield.
Right.
As if it did it before he knew to do it. I don't know. I love that. Yeah, the action was incredible in this opening scene. And also, just to go back to that Steve Rogers line at the beginning, I feel like this is a thing. Is this going to be a thing now where the beginning of every single TV in the Disney Plus series is at least every character starts with a flashback dialogue from the movie. We got that with Monica Rambeau as well. And I just it's so cool to me that we've gotten to the place where now we have flashback dialogue moments. You know what I mean? It's just crazy to think that's how much these series have evolved over time.
I think it's great though that they started with that opening line. It just really sets up the fact that even Cap knew that he was the right fit to hold that shield. Yeah. And I think that's going to be very much the sort of antithesis or the sort of footnote to this entire series as we see this exploration is that he is able to hold that shield because he represents a different kind of Captain America. So I think it was very smart for them to start with it because I think they're showing all their cards right there by really kind of hammering, revisiting that moment.
Yeah, I love that he didn't just go, okay, I'm the new Captain America, right? It would be such a huge mantle to try and take on. And right. There would be so much pressure and so much you would have to expect of yourself because everyone's going to expect it of you. And so I love that his struggle is going to be realizing that, it's not, he didn't just pick up the shield. He was given it. He was chosen by Steve himself. So it'll be him realizing that he is the right one in the end. It's going to be a fun journey, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. So then, guys, we cut back to Tunisia, where Sam and Torres or Torres are sitting down to drinks. Torres are sitting down to drinks, and Sam is repairing Red Wing. Torres tells Sam about the Flag Smashers, a group of extremists who think the world was better during the blip and who want a world without borders. Torres then floats a theory as to Cap's whereabouts and how he might be on the moon. Guys, before we move on, I need to know, what did you think of first of all, Torres' incessant questioning here? Is he just a fanboy, or is something else going on there? And do you really think Steve is on the moon?
Was that an allusion to Nick Fury being in space more than it was?
I think, right? Like, because Nick's in space. We know this, right? So Cap could easily be up there with him, you know?
I don't think so.
Well, yeah,
No.
I don't know. But, like, it does bring up a really good question. What does the world think happened to Captain America?
Right.
Did they explain that they had to travel back in time to, like, go get these stones so that they could
feel like
undo
they
it?
didn't.
No, of course not.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think maybe he died in battle. Is like he died in the big fight. I
Yes.
think is maybe what everyone's led to believe.
Okay,
right?
so yeah, and I think that was what was interesting, is that we were getting information from Torres about how much they basically do know of what happened, right? Because obviously, like in WandaVision with Darcy, we do get like a really, like, it's almost like she watched the movie. She's like, you know, when she's telling Vision, like, yeah, like she had to kill you only to watch you get reborn and killed you, you know what I mean? Like, as if you were trying to explain that scene to your friend who hadn't seen Avengers, or, you know, reliving it. It was very meta. So I feel like there's just that layer to his questions that he's asking that feel very like to the point of what, you know, we're saying. He's very fanboy, but he wants the in, right? Like, he wants the in. He's like, yo, come on, tell me seriously, what happened to Cap? Is he on the moon?
I think it's interesting. That they even brought up Steve's whereabouts, because they really didn't have to. And so I think they might actually touch upon that in the show. It's possible, but I love the idea of Torres becoming the next Falcon once Sam fully takes on Captain America's, you know, the mantle. But I think there's going to be some conflict first. I honestly think they're setting him up to be so likable and so relatable that it's going to strike even deeper when he betrays Sam. I think he's too curious. I think he's asking too many questions, and I think he's too closely connected to the U.S. government for us to trust him. Because, I mean, in this series, you know, Nick Fury said it best in Winter Soldier. You can't trust anyone, right? So
I think it was interesting when Torres calls out the fact that, you know, people think that the world was a better place before everyone came back. And I think that's interesting, because I think that's going to be very much an undertone. We'll go further with that idea, I think, through this episode. But I feel like that's something that will live in this world. Like, was it right for them to bring back everyone?
Well, he says it like he almost believes it. You know what I mean? Like, the way he says it, it's like, are you agree with them?
He followed up. He
It's
followed
kinda
up
weird.
pretty quickly. He's like, you know, they believe that it was better before. He's like, it wasn't. Trust me, right? Like, because he was still here.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, he was
Yeah.
there. So I think he knows. He's just he kind of maybe to your point might feel like he kind of agrees with that point. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
I don't know. I think he feels torn, but. Anyways, we come back to a memorial service for the donation of Cap's shield to the Smithsonian, with Sam basically saying thanks, but this belongs to you, big guy. So after a brief conversation with a very concerned James Rhodes about how the world is broken, Sam is left contemplating his decision to leave the shield. So guys, first off, did you expect to see Don Cheadle show up in the series at least even this early? And do you think we'll see him again, or was this the last time we see him before Armor Wars? Justin?
I think we'll see him again, but I think that it, you know, like, to have him in the show makes sense. It was just a nice sort of alignment, right? You know, apart from the fact that they're both taking the mantles of their white predecessors, or they've been asked to in some way, to primarily black heroes. And I also think that it's interesting how he asks him, like, why didn't you? Like, why didn't you take up that mantle? Like, why didn't you feel like it was? And I think hinting at the idea that the world is not right even after everyone's come back. Like, it wasn't all honky-dory. It's not everyone's like, you know, kumbaya, everyone's happy.
Yeah, he literally says the world is broken. Right? He says there's people on both sides that we can't trust. You know, friends are now enemies. Enemies are now friends. Like, he kind of just talks about kind of all this stuff. And yeah, I think he's to a certain point, he's disappointed, right? He's disappointed that Sam's not accepting this huge responsibility, but at the same time, I think he also kind of understands a little bit too.
Well, and what a world we live in, where like we're just gonna get like an unannounced Don Cheadle cameo in a show. Like,
right?
That's amazing. And it's just like, oh, there he is. Cool.
Yeah.
And so I think it almost poses the bigger question of who are we going to see going forward? And we sort of talked earlier about, what are they trying to say here? And what does this mean about what the world knows about Captain America and what they think might have actually happened to him? Do we see old Cap make an appearance in this show at some point? Like, wouldn't that be just like... Like I would flip out. That would
be crazy. But Kevin, to your point about seeing Don Cheadle just show up, it literally it didn't register with me immediately. Like I just saw it and I was like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. And then like the part where they walk in and they see they're talking next to the Shield, I'm like, holy crap! Like Rhodey's in the show. Like it was something. It didn't hit me right away. So I love that he's always the voice of reason, right? Like first for Tony and now for Sam. Like he seems to always really know what's going on, and I love that he knows. Sam, just to your point, Justin, that he should be Captain America and how much the world needs specifically him as Captain America now more than ever, because it's just too cool to see how the MCU is and always has done its part to address real world events. And I think that is very much a moment where the show is actually even talking to the audience in a way.
Well, let me just quickly say, like, if you were at this memorial service, one of the great superheroes of all time has died, apparently, and only War Machine shows up, like only Rhodey shows, nobody else from the Avengers shows up to this funeral service. Like, I'd be like, what's going on here?
So for me, though, I didn't register it. I will say that it maybe felt like a funeral service, but it felt like more like...
Yeah. Was it more of the passing of, like, the induction of the Shield
exactly.
into the... Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
okay.
That's what that event was sort of. But I do agree with you that it in the way that they've depicted it, especially him getting ready, right? Like at the beginning and ironing, it feels like he's going to a funeral, right? Like it does feel, it does have that sort of like that softness as he's reliving the memory and stuff like that. And knowing that scene plays where he's passing off the Shield, like that just gives that scene that much more context as to what it really means to him. It is a kind of a funeral to him, right? To the Falcon. So,
but guys, now from one James to another, we see a moment from the past as the Winter Soldier blasts through the wall to take out a Russian mob boss. And in doing so, he comes across an innocent bystander who sees him, and then he proceeds to aim his gun and kill the poor young man in cold blood. Immediately after that gunshot, we see Bucky Barnes wake up in a cold sweat while sleeping on the floor of his very empty apartment. This moment then moves to a therapy session where Bucky and his therapist discuss his pardon and the 3 rules he must follow to recover from his PTSD and cross the names off of his list of amends. While he breaks 2 of those 3 rules, we see him setting up the capture of Senator Atwood, who was a Hydra pawn in the United States Senate. When he tells her, "I am no longer the Winter Soldier. I am James Bucky Barnes, and you're part of my efforts to make amends." The therapist asks for his phone and tells him he's alone, and then lets him know he's free. He then responds with, "To do what?" So, guys, what did you think of this deeper look into the psyche of Bucky Barnes?
I think my biggest problem with Bucky has always been he's been a bit flat. And I understand why as the character, he's like he was basically like under this spell of Hydra, and he was, just a mindless drone doing their work. And there was just so much personality and charm in this therapy scene. And I'm like, I could really start to like this guy, and obviously I don't think he's ever going to be, happy-go-lucky, but
sure.
Happy-go-lucky Bucky, if you will. But I think we're going to see him sort of maybe soften up a bit as he's dealing with this PTSD. And maybe, as Sam's coming to grips with becoming Cap, he's going to have to, come to grips with being Bucky and not the Winter Soldier. And so that's going to be a really interesting journey.
Yeah, you mentioned happy-go-lucky Bucky or Happy Bucky. It is interesting, both the callbacks and the juxtaposition to Captain America, right? Like, you know, we see him sleeping on the floor of his apartment, which is a great callback to when Sam and Steve had their conversation after working out around the Washington Monument. How he talks about like sinking. He feels like he could sink to the floor because his bed's too soft. And then also just the fact that he keeps a little paper list, just like how Steve Rogers kept a little paper list of all the things that he missed. That was very much like a fun, like happy thing to try and achieve. And you've got, you know, Bucky Barnes, you know, with this list of amends that he has to kind of make up for. But yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed seeing yet again another Marvel character deal with his mental health, right? I mean, we got Wanda dealing with her grief through WandaVision, and now we get Bucky, you know, and the real world turmoil that he's in as he navigates this world as a quote unquote free man. I just think it's just so cool that we've gotten to this place with superheroes that this is the kind of stuff we're talking about on a podcast. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I think it just goes without saying what we said about Wanda and Vision. It's like they didn't get their character-focused stories like the Iron Man, the Hulk, the Thor, the eccentric ones. This is what this is now, right? Like, I agree with Kevin. I was like, you know, Sebastian Stan is a great actor. He was casted as Bucky Barnes and to play the Winter Soldier. He hasn't really done much other than just to be a very one-note character. This is the most that we've seen of a range on his character. Probably the second closest would be like Civil War, when you got to see the bickering and the buddy cop vibe from Sam and Bucky. But this, like, I think this scene to me, like, he was the highlight of this whole episode for me, was Bucky. That being said, I do agree with you, Kevin. I think the balance between how Sam finds his way to be Captain America is going to be almost aligned or parallel to how Bucky copes with not being the Winter Soldier anymore, but embracing what his strength is and doing what's right. You know, not being the villain, not being the bad guy, right? So, and knowing how he has to step in. Very
cool. So guys, then we cut back to Brooklyn, where we see Bucky stopping a confrontation between Unique and his good friend Yori Nakajima. After promising Yori lunch, the two hit up Izzy's, where they discuss the obituary, and Yori sets up Bucky on his first date since 1943. Yori sees some red bean mochi and recalls his son's fondness for it, as he mentions how he never really found out how his son died. So guys, knowing that Yori is on Bucky's list of amends, how hard did it hit you when you realized just who Yori was? And what did you think of this moment of camaraderie juxtaposed by this moment of sort of darkness, sadness, and regret? Because honestly, and I know I say this a lot, but I cried a little bit.
Well, so it's just another one of those, like, looking at this superhero world through a realistic lens. And so, you know, what Bucky's story obviously is parallel to, you know, this character's son, in that he doesn't know what happened to him. And so Bucky's probably sitting here this whole time thinking, like, my poor parents, they never knew what happened to me. I went off to the war and they never knew what happened to me. And so I think that's where a lot of his guilt comes from, is that he's the cause of this father never knowing what happened to his son. And so that was like the most powerful part of the episode for me, I think, this whole interaction in their story.
Yeah, when I clued in, when he started talking about his son, that I'm like, oh, like, that's the nightmare he had, killing his son. Yeah. Right? And, you know, what he's doing is he has two lists. He has two lists, really. The people that he's killed to make amends with them, but also the people that like, you know, the Hydra people, just to let them know I'm no longer on this Hydra. I'm no longer the Winter Soldier. So please stop bothering me, because I will hurt you.
Stop sending me the emails. Can you get me off the email list, please?
Yeah. I've unsubscribed like 12 times here. I think, though, this is where the heart of Bucky's journey, or what we see at the beginning of Bucky's journey in this series is, you know, coping with that. Because I think even what it shows is that even though he was a machine that just killed, somewhere behind that, he realized this wasn't right. So that's why it's still retained and it stayed with him, right? Like, it's something that he questioned.
Very cool. I love seeing Bucky as an old man. like so easily befriending another old man, like given his age, right? It makes sense that they both do the old man tropes of discussing the obituaries and playing pinochle or whatever it's called. Like, I just thought, and he's like, "What's wrong with pinochle?" It's just so good because he means it. So guys, actually that brings us to our, we actually have a couple writing questions. First, Tyler from California writes in and asks, with Bucky being an older man and his love for pinochle or whatever it's called, I was wondering what would be the first thing you would do on your first date in 90 years? Justin, what would you do in your first date in 90 years?
Jeez. I don't know. That's a tough one. I really don't know. I honestly, I feel like, Kevin, what would you do?
Well, I mean, if you're Bucky, so you've got that late 1930s mentality, you'd be like, okay, let's go hop in the car and we'll drive around. You would go maybe get a milkshake and maybe go see a movie that was popular with the kids. And, then maybe do a little necking, if you're lucky. So,
well, I think I was thinking if I was 90, but still like, I was, Bucky's age, but I had lived through this period of time. Yeah, I don't know. I'd probably want to do something that was more conversational because who knows, 90 years from now, people will only probably be dating through like VR sets, and I definitely would not be up for that.
True.
Yeah, maybe the technology would scare you so much that you're like, okay, we're not playing video games, we're not watching movies, we're just going to have a chat. Yeah.
What do you mean? You don't want to play a game of cribbage with me?
Well, I was thinking, honestly, for me, I was thinking like I would see if she likes shuffleboard. And then I would take her to a moving picture because shuffleboard slaps, all right? And, you see romantic comedies, they play shuffleboard in there as well. So I think it would work really well because, I don't know, guys. Have you guys played shuffleboard? It's great.
Only on a cruise. Only when I cruise.
Only when you cruise. Guys, we have a second writing question here from friend of the show and host of Press YYZ podcast, Mr. Mitch George, who wants to know, what other old person references do you think we'll see Bucky make in this series?
I think we'll see some money jokes. 100%. Yeah. Some like, I remember when those used to be a nickel. Kind of thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if you get that sort of, that'd be great.
I also think like there's a scene in the trailer where we see Bucky and Sam like walking for a prolonged period of time, so I wonder if we're going to get a comment about like, back in my day, I had to walk uphill both ways or something like that. Maybe, or even, right? But very cool. Well, guys, thank you so much for your questions, Tyler and Mitch. Now, sadly, Justin, I can't seem to quite remember the series of words that I need to say to unlock the email address that our listeners can use to write into the show. Would you happen to remember the code words?
Yes. The code words are wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. That's wearegeekcentric@gmail.com.
I am the Winter Soldier. Okay, so guys, we come back to see Uncle Sam greet his excited nephews and his sister Sarah as they discuss the selling of their family's fishing boat. Sam suggests that he has a plan for how to help his sister get out of debt and still keep the boat. Now, guys, we're going to go a bit out of order here so that we can stick with Sam and Sarah for a bit, just so you guys know, okay? So then we see Sam discussing his plans to help while prepping meals for delivery as the two head off to the bank. They go out to the bank to discuss taking out a loan from probably the douchiest bank teller who won't stop asking for selfies in the most awful times. And after the two are rejected, Sarah and him continue to argue over selling the boat, and he still won't give up, even though he knows that she's right. So, guys, what did you think of this very human moment in this extraordinary world filled with armies and monsters, as Sarah puts it?
I know I've said how I like the sort of grounded nature that the show is going to take. I did find that these scenes were probably the least interesting for me for whatever reason. I was just kind of like, okay, let's go.
Really?
Yeah, it was. I just wasn't connecting as much to that story as I was to Bucky's, I think. But it is interesting. Like, so they don't pay these guys to risk their lives and save the world, apparently, eh? Like, that's nuts.
Yeah, I was thinking it's kind of, it's cool that they had this very sort of grounded, because it answers one of those nagging questions that grounds this world even further into reality, which is how do the Avengers get paid, right? And I love that these heroes who aren't gods or sorcerers That this allows us to see them and get on the ground level of how these people at the end of the day live their lives. So, I can't wait to see how Marvel explores more of these questions throughout these kinds of characters and throughout these stories.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. Go to the bank. Go to the bathroom. How do these guys go to the bathroom in some of those suits? Let's answer that next.
Okay, that's a bit strange. Sticking on the bank thing.
Yeah.
I think that it's actually it's probably the most real thing in this whole episode. Real in the sense that it's what's happening now, with people trying to get loans for businesses and staying afloat for their business during these pandemic times. So speaking to the idea of how difficult it is to get a bank loan, and also, like, to your point, grounding it with the sense of, like, he's a superhero. You think a superhero like him gets paid like the government just pays him? No, he doesn't. He's basically a specialized hire that they don't really necessarily, and it's goodwill that helps. So he's looking to saying, like, maybe this bank, but that's just not gonna fly. And again, another example of, was it really better to bring everyone back after 5 years of everything that happened? Like, I think that's going to be an ongoing question. Like, was it really right for the heroes to make that decision to bring everyone back 5 years later after the world was trying to get back in some sense of normality after everything had happened, right? So while, yes, it's joyful and you're able to be with your loved ones, and we see this, what did it do to the world, right? And how does it create new enemies and new divides? So I think what we see here is another implication of, yes, a different time, but also a time that does speak to us in this current state with, the racial connotations that were there, the racial connotations that kind of came out of previous scene with Rhodey and Sam, where it kind of looks like he's kind of accusing it, like, not accusing him, but asking him if it was a race factor that didn't allow him to want to really be the Captain America. But, he obviously didn't necessarily lean into that. We're going to get one more, obviously, at the end here. But, yeah, I think that there's just this very real implication of things that people can connect from today into this narrative.
Yeah, and I loved how, I think the whole family aspect with Sam was really cool to explore as well.
Yes.
Right? Like, seeing that these people, not all these, a lot of our Marvel heroes are like, they don't have any family. Right. So it was really nice to kind of go back and see Sarah and see the nephew, see the boys, and just see the community that's there. And honestly, I got to just say it. I think it was really cool that, it sucks that it's taken this long after Wakanda to see this many black people on screen in an MCU project. But they're doing it. So keep going with it. Right. And I think some of the multicultural aspects about how, you've got Torres in here as a Spanish character. Like, it just seems like they're doing the right thing with this series. So.
Yeah.
And just really quickly, I know that in the comics, Sam has a sister named Sarah, so they're obviously bringing that into this world. So
yeah,
it's always good when they, flush out these comic sort of stories.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that he compares the fact that, what he's doing to maintain his family home and his family business is to maintain his legacy. And, which is kind of ironic because he was given a shield from Captain America, Steve Rogers, to continue a legacy, but he didn't feel fitting to that, to carry that shield, to hold up that mantle. Maybe it's not his legacy he feels like it's not his legacy that he needs to continue. So I think that, again, grounding it in the idea of him maintaining the legacy of his family name and the business is a very real thing that I think a lot of people can connect with during these times.
Cool. Okay, guys. So let's return to Bucky now on his date, where he mentions that he has poor circulation, and the two play Battleship. During the game, his date asks him a series of questions, and he mentions that he has a sister, and that his parents have passed away. His date mentions just how nice it is that he hangs out with Yori, and that the hardest thing for Yori is not knowing how his son died. This causes Bucky to leave abruptly it wasn't really the best date anyways, to confront Yori. But when he gets to the door, he sees Yori's vigil for his son and decides not to say anything. So guys, do you think we'll ever see Bucky make amends for this tragic act, or or do you think he'll continue to be trapped and not free, as his therapist calls him?
Well, can he ever move on if he doesn't make all of the amends, right? And obviously, this one will be the hardest one for him to do.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to have to see it, right? He's going to need to do this to move on, and it's important for the character of Nuri to get that closure. And I think he'll eventually. It'll be the hardest thing he's ever had to do, I think, is to tell him what happened. But I think it's necessary. So it's going to be tough, but he'll have to do it at some point.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because, I'm almost wondering if there's going to be a moment where we see the list and we see it's an old list or something. Maybe he's been writing it for a long time, or maybe he has an older version of the list or something, and Tony Stark is on the list, right? I just think how hard would that hit? The idea that he never got to make amends with Tony, right? He never had that opportunity. And maybe something within the series is going to happen where he'll see his opportunity to find a way to make amends in that way. Maybe he saves Rhodey, or maybe he does something. I don't know. I think that would be an interesting aspect if they could pull that in.
some deep cuts that I think are very, very unlikely. Only the fact because it seems like the therapy session that he's in is part of a program, as part of his pardon, as part of his sort of reintegration into society, to make sure that he's not a mass murderer. It's policy for him to have done this. So I feel like he would have made that list during these sessions, and would have had something. It would be interesting though if they do go down that road, to play devil's advocate, if it was his daughter that he had actually had to make amends to, rather than Stark's daughter.
That's who it would be.
Yeah. Oh, and then he walks away and he goes, "I love you, 4,000."
Oh, Nate, get the tissues ready now for that moment.
I'm already crying. I'm crying. No, I like that a lot. And Justin, just something you just said that really just stuck out to me, though. You mentioned how this is something he's doing through his therapy session. Isn't it interesting that we get this guy who goes through such a long period of time of having these rules as the Winter Soldier? He has to follow these specific commands and go through a list of people. Right, and now he's literally doing the same thing through his therapy session. That's
for healing.
That's interesting. Yeah. But is for healing, or again, do we keep both eyes on the prize or whatever he says, and then is there something nefarious going on? That's interesting. Okay.
Wow.
Okay, sorry.
You kind of ran with that one, eh? I don't even.
I ran with it. Guys, let's keep running with this plot here. We then get to the scene where Torres tracks down the Flag Smashers. He finds their flash mob, and after putting on a black mask, he gets a message that says, "Run." And immediately, two large bags smash through the windows of a Swiss bank above him onto the ground, followed by a very large man who obviously has superpowers, because to survive a jump like that, and also the way he tosses Torres around like a rag doll and kicks a cop into a lamp post or something. Torres then gets knocked out. Then Sam takes one more crack at fixing his parents' boat, and it still won't start. He gets a message from Torres, who asks him to get to a secure line, and he reviews the footage of the supposed Flag Smashers leader. And then while FaceTiming Torres, Torres fills him in on the details of what happened. After asking if anything else happened outside the video, Torres responds by saying, "Why? You don't think he could be a..." And then, of course, Sam cuts him off and asks him to keep the conversation between them. So, guys, you don't think he could be what? Enhanced. What do you guys think? What do you think he is? Is he an enhanced individual? Is he a mutant? Is he an
enhanced?
What was Torres referring to here?
I think it's enhanced.
Almost a super soldier.
Right?
Yeah. Because I think they both have the same. They both have the awareness of the super soldier program, right? Obviously, and especially with Torres being such a big fan of the Avengers, obviously he would keep up with that information, right?
Yeah, well, that's a term that they use, right? Is they call those enhanced, right? So I feel like he's aware that whoever this guy is, he's obviously enhanced.
Well, and just as an Easter egg that I found, somebody pointed out that in the credits, the words "power broker watching" appear, and the power broker was key to the character of John Walker getting his super soldier strength. And so I think that is going to be something we deal with here is these enhanced individuals sort of carrying the mantle of the super soldier serum.
I got something that I'll actually, you know what? I'll save it for the end for our theories.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll save it for our theories.
Okay. Kevin, I hear what you're saying because, I'm wondering, because we know Zemo's going to be in the series. And, of course, we've seen Zemo supposedly kill off all of the super soldiers that he was working on. But did he, right? Did he? If you're Zemo, you're a bad guy. You keep some of those guys in the bank, right? That you can activate remotely or something, right? I think maybe that has something to do with how he actually gets out of jail. So I really do think that this guy is pumped full of super soldier serum, and it's going to be interesting to see if maybe he is the quote unquote power broker. But guys, then in our final scene in this first episode, Sarah rushes into the room and tells Sam he needs to see what's on TV. They turn on the news to witness the introduction of definitely not America's ass, the new Captain America. So, guys, before we get into our final thoughts and predictions, what are your immediate thoughts of Wyatt Russell? Is it Russell Wyatt or Wyatt Russell? Hang on. What are your immediate thoughts of Wyatt Russell wearing Steve Rogers' outfit and donning that shield? Do you think he's a fake, like the Mandarin was in the MCU? Or could he have been given some super serum?
He didn't look like he had super soldier serum. He
right?
looked like a goof. He looked like a dork.
The mask did not fit him properly. I hope he gets a new mask or something.
Yeah,
he just doesn't wear it.
A choice, right? So that he looked so out of place and so silly.
Yeah, he did look like a birthday party Captain America hire.
Kevin's taking a drink and then. No, absolutely. Or one of those New York street, take a picture, give him some money.
Times Square.
It's funny though that this was the scene that felt the most TV to me because it was such a small set and it was such a small scene. They're announcing Captain America, the new Captain America, and this is all the people that are there. Right? It's just, it's outside of a small little doorway. This was actually on leaked photos, right? And the scene was actually very small. And I was thinking, they're going to make it seem more epic with maybe a street parade or something like that. No, they just kept it to outside of the side door of a courthouse with stairs coming down. They announced it. But it felt the most TV out of the whole thing, one part. But, I think the scene itself is the final little note in this whole episode of this sort of racial undertone, right? You can see as they're getting ready to announce the way he's clenching his hands and he knows what's about to happen. And I think when they reveal that he's white, and you see reveal that he's white, and then you see Sam's face, he's kind of taking it more of a slight at his color, right? So I think that's really, I wonder if that's going to be very prevalent as an undertone throughout this, and if they're actually going to address it dead on, or if they're just going to play, fast and loose like they're doing, how they have in this episode.
To your first point there, Just, it was a fairly underwhelming introduction, and in the trailers we saw this big football field, and it looks
coming.
like a Captain America from behind. So I'm wondering if maybe that's how the next episode starts.
Maybe, yeah.
And
maybe he goes on he goes on tour, like Steve did back in the war, right? Yeah.
But it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be fun to watch this guy suck. He's gonna be in an opportunity where he has to be Captain America, and nobody can just be Captain America, and so this wiener of a guy is going to really show Sam that he is the one that has to pick up this mantle and continue the legacy.
Yeah, it's interesting, seeing him come out and seeing him wink, kind of it made me mad, to be honest with you. Obviously that's what Marvel wants, but I was just this guy sucks, and I'm really excited to see just how much he does suck as a government controlled Captain America. I think it's possible if he does have the super serum at some point, I feel like it's going to bring some sort of like The Boys vibes into the MCU, right? Where we have this guy that's very much like, no, you have to go to this meeting here to meet with this group so that we can get this sort of face value for this demographic. Like, I could see the government very much being like, we need the world to embrace this new Captain America, and his numbers aren't where they need to be. So I could see them kind of going sort of boys with it. But I think Wyatt Russell is a great choice, and I think he'll either play a very dope bad guy or a very charming fake bad guy that turns out to maybe even be a good guy. I don't know. I feel like he's it'll be interesting to see, right? Like, they really could go one way or the other, either keep him really weak or actually make him an actual threat. So intriguing guys, but that's it. Let's hear your final thoughts on this premiere and your rating for this episode, which we're going to rate on a scale of 1 to 5 stolen cap shields. So, Kevin, let's start with you.
I thought this was a really good start to what I think is almost going to feel like a 5-hour movie broken into 6 parts.
Yeah.
I'm surprised with how much setting up they still have to do with only 5 episodes left. Like, we didn't get our big bad guy yet, I don't think. We haven't got the team up at all yet. And so I think it's an interesting pace that they're setting for themselves here with only 5 more episodes to go. But I think it did a really good job of sort of establishing, what we're going to find out about these characters and how we're sort of going to go more in depth with them as people, rather than we've only kind of just seen them in action. And so now we're going to get to know them as characters. And I'm if you had told me that I would be more interested in the Bucky scenes than the Sam scenes going into this, I would have called you crazy, because I was always sort of like I was always a low-key fan of Sam. I thought he had a lot of fun, and Bucky's never interested me, and now I'm completely flipped on that, and I'm like, I want to get to know this Bucky guy. I'm a Winter Soldier guy now, so
there you go.
I'm excited going forward. I mean, in terms of the action, that was a movie quality 10-minute action scene, and we're going to get it on TV every week. That's exciting. So, in terms of setting me up and being such a different pace and tone than WandaVision, I'm down for that too. And so I think it was a great start. So I'm going to give it 4.4, because I can only see it going up from here. I'm going to give it 4.4 stolen Captain America shields out of 5.
All right. Went with the full name. I love it. Justin.
Yeah, I think I'm going to give it a solid 4.3 stolen cap shields out of 5. I think that, to Kevin's point, it was such a great introduction to this story because it showed you the action scenes. It kept very the conspiracy thriller vibe of what Captain America, Winter Soldier, and even Civil War to a certain degree kind of echoed, and it brought that into this series. I'm really interested in how they're portraying the characters. I'm loving the focus that they're having with really trying to tell each of their stories but weave them together. And I like the real world sensibility of ingraining some actual plausible things that are happening in the world, whether it be race or whether it be financials and things like that, like things that I think are that can still be talked about in this fiction world of the MCU. So I'm excited. I'm super stoked. I think they did a great job, and it's set the bar, and I'm interested to see how each episode's going to differ, because I feel like we won't get that level of action probably in every episode, but again, to show that level of action in your first episode and the attention to it,
that's how you do it,
right? They see you're setting the bar. Yeah. That's your bar, right? So, as the episodes go on, we'll see how they up that.
Very cool. Yeah, and for me, I'll very much echo a lot of what you guys have said. I mean, what a great way to fast track these characters' development, right? To get us to a place where we care about them just as much as some of the characters that we've had multiple movies with. And I love how Marvel, how well they've transitioned into the new era of Marvel with more diverse, the more diverse era with new superheroes that aren't just all white people, right? Like we now have heroes like Miles Morales and Miss Marvel who we're actually going to see in an MCU property. I love that the series is clearly and unabashedly going to go into the themes of race and politics as we see Sam eventually embrace becoming his own Captain America, a black Captain America. And I love how the show will very much represent what's going on in the world around us. Like even down to in this episode, we get a group of message board extremists, starting almost like a very images of a riot almost outside of like a government building, right? Like it's just crazy how much Marvel is willing to mirror this stuff, and I love it because I think that's something that they've always done, and I love that again, while WandaVision was so small, that this is like an international spy thriller. This is an international story within the world of the MCU in the aftermath of the blip, and I'm excited to see where they take this story. And I'm so excited for new characters to continue this legacy of the MCU through Phase 4, moving forward both narratively, but also culturally and in new ways to represent heroes that more people can see themselves in. With all of that being said, I really think this episode was fantastic, but I think it will get better. So I'm going to go with 4.5 stolen cap shields out of 5. Great stuff. Okay, guys, so lastly on the show, we like to give any and all predictions for how we think the show might continue going forward. In our Mandalorian, we had What is the Way? In our WandaVision, we had What's the Vision? For this show, Justin, I want to know, what the Falcon is going to happen?
Well, I feel like the introduction of this enhanced villain, I think if it's not the villain, it is one of the villains. I think we'll learn more about potentially more testing of the super soldier formula. Who knows if our new Captain America wasn't part of the same testing. There's might be some sort of political ties here, where, they're using it to, wreak havoc, whereas obviously the government is using it to, bring about a new Captain America.
Interesting.
Definitely a challenge, because I think that's going to be the impeding part for Sam, is him really negotiating with the fact that he doesn't have a superpower. Like, he's not a super soldier driven, and he's going to be combating a lot of these sort of villains. Whereas obviously someone like Bucky Barnes, he's definitely a super soldier. He is the success of a Hydra initiative. I think Zemo is going to help them. I think Zemo is actually...
He's a good guy.
I think he's going to. I think he's going to be like a terrorist that they're going to track down, and he's going to end up helping them. I feel like he's rather than... And maybe he is the big baddie, but I think that there is an opportunity for him to kind of be that. But yeah, I don't know if I'm on board with the idea that this guy is going to become... Torres is going to become the new Falcon by the end of this series. I see that maybe being something that's going to happen later, much later down the road. I think he's more likely to wear a similar suit to Sam, which I think would resonate more with this universe versus mutating him and giving him wings. Like, I just think that's...
Oh, man.
I just think
I don't think we're going to get physical wings. No. It's going to be a suit when he does. If he does take up that role,
and I just think that works better because he's a military guy, and like, you can still keep that, and he's gonna have a different persona. Like, I like the idea that he would be the new Falcon. I just don't know if I like the idea that he's gonna be mutated and stuff. I don't know if I'm on board for that.
Yeah, if you're introducing mutants into the MCU, that's not the character I want it to be done with first. Yeah. Definitely not.
Well, Kevin, speaking of what you might want, what the Falcon is going to happen?
Honestly, I'm terrible at sort of predicting where things are going to go. And I think Marvel is so good at not having everything just be obvious and predictable. I mean, that wouldn't be a lot of fun if we knew where this show was going to go over the next 5 episodes. And so they're so good at just not really giving much away, not showing you their hand. I'm looking forward to seeing Wyatt Russell. I really like him as an actor. I've always enjoyed him in anything I've seen him in. And so I hope he's a lot of fun to sort of see as this fake Captain America. Obviously, I think we're going to sort of see this big bad guy. I think they called him Davik or something in the credits he's listed as. And so I think we're going to see the Flag Smashers sort of really get to know what their agenda is here and what they're attempting to do. And maybe, they escalate their, sort of actions in the next episode, and it leads to us needing to get Sam and Bucky together at some point. I think we're gonna have to get to that point sooner rather than later, I think. And so I'm hoping to see something happen in this episode that forces them to have to sort of come together.
Very cool. Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you guys are saying, but I don't know. I really think,
if you say Mephisto is going to be in this goddamn
Mephisto is going to be in the show. Guys, let me explain. Mephisto, no, just kidding. That would be amazing. No, I really think this is going to be Sam and Bucky's story of dealing with becoming who they need to be in response to the world that they've missed out on, 5 years of living in. I think we're going to get not 2, but 3 main villains here. I think Batroc is definitely coming back, whether through LAF or not, I don't know. I think the Flag Smashers with Zemo, I think Zemo has a lot to do with the Flag Smashers. And the U.S. government, I think, is going to be another villain. And I think that one is going to be the toughest part for Sam, being an ex-military. I think he's going to really struggle with going up against that. And I think the series is also going to introduce us to more superpowered individuals because, if you notice during the end credits montage, Kevin, you already called out one thing. There was another thing. There was an image of a blue super serum inside of what looks like a bullet casing. So, maybe at least one of these factions is creating these super soldiers, like we said. And I really do think that Torres is going to go bad before he goes good. And I'm even wondering if we get what if General Ross comes back and now he's the president, right? Because during that last moment, whatever the guy who runs the Smithsonian or whoever that guy is, he's like, and our chief head of state or the president, I think he says the president is proud to announce. So I'm wondering if maybe General Ross is planning this sort of, how do we take over the other members of the Avengers to create our own Avengers? And maybe Torres is the replacement for Sam. They've already got their replacement for Cap, and now they just need a replacement for Sam and all the other people that said no to the Sokovia Accord. So I think there could play with that. It would be really interesting to see if he does come back in the series that way. And dude, I'm just there's so many wonderful ways they could take this series. But I guess we'll just have to wait to see what the Falcon is going to happen. Well, guys, that is it. We hope you enjoyed this week's series premiere episode of Watch Club. And if you did, make sure to subscribe to us wherever you like to listen to podcasts, if you haven't already. And join us next week, where we'll come out of our brainwashed state to give you our thoughts on episode 2 of this fledgling series. Also, if you don't know, we have more than just Watch Club. We also have our regular episodes of the Geekcentric podcast, with our latest episode out now, where we share our top overrated and underrated movies in hopes that we don't break any hearts or lose anyone's geeky respect. So please go give that a listen, and feel free to leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Justin, Kevin, thank you so much for joining me for today's Watch Club. And as we say,
on your left.